What's up everybody, welcome to today's GMBN video. Yes, it's bike check time, kind of, but we're also going to be looking at my top 5 things for an epic ride, as I've recently done another 24-hour race called the 24 Hours in the Old Pueblo out in Tucson, Arizona. But did I finish it? Well, you're going to have to tune over to GMBN to check the full video out on that one. But because of it, I thought I'd share some of my knowledge with you about what I think are the absolute essentials. So let's begin with the bike that I was using for the event then. It was again an Orbea Ois, but this time the brand new 2023 model. 120mm front and back, it's a full carbon, full 29er race bike. A Fox 34 up front. Again, it's very similarly set up to the previous bike I used at the Strathpuffer, just on that whole new chassis. So a little bit lighter, a longer reach, slightly lower bottom bracket, and a slacker head angle make for a very stable, very fun ride, still with that really lightweight to it. Again, we've got the remote dropper on there. I changed out the tyres this time to a Vittoria Mezcal's front and rear because it was slightly drier, much more hard pack, and I wanted that faster rolling speeds. But again, it's the usual setup, 1x12 XTR, very lightweight XTR brakes. It's kind of what you'd come to expect. But when it comes to those essentials, well, the first thing on my list is a good solid set of lights, and that's exactly what I had for this event. So very kindly, Outbound Lighting came aboard and supplied us with their Trail Evo front mounted light. Now, a fully contained unit, there's no external battery or wires. It's all built into one nice little piece just sitting on the bars there. It's a real easy interface on it as well. There's one button on and off, and then you toggle through that to use the different modes. Now, maximum output is about 2,500 lumens. The 4 different modes are adaptive, high, medium, and low, so you can really choose and customize it to exactly what you need. And when you do know what you need, well, it will show you with these 4 little LEDs on the top of the unit here, and that will also display exactly how much battery life you've got left. Now, although this light may not have the most lumens out there of all the lights, that's irrelevant. The way that this light puts out its spread of light, if you like, without saying it too much, is absolutely incredible. What it does is really spread it evenly from left to right, almost 180-degree field of view. And that actually works top to bottom as well. So there's no shadow going over the tyre. And it's this that I think really sets it apart and makes it a very, very good light to use on the front. Finally, USB-C charging is standard on this, so it's really easy to charge with probably a load of leads you've got tucked away in the kitchen cupboard. And if you're a weight weenie like I am on this bike especially, this whole unit here actually only weighs 275 grams and about, I think it's 38 grams or something super light for the mount as well. A real simple mount where it just slides on in, clicks in place, and then you have like a little wing nut almost there just to tighten it up to hold it in. Run times on this light, well, you're looking at around 2 hours on full beam, just over the 4-hour mark on medium, and over 8 hours on low. So plenty of light and battery power in there to see you through the most epic of rides. But wait, it's not all about the light at the front. No, you're gonna need this too. So on top was the Hangover headlight, a much more compact sealed unit mounted nice and simply on a GoPro mount atop my helmet. I've got this one slammed all the way down so you can see when I'm looking down and looking ahead that beam of light is once again illuminating the trail. I honestly think a head torch, when doing epic rides, especially if you do venture into those darker hours, is absolutely crucial. Look, at just around 100 grams for this light, the runtime is insane. So you're looking at just over an hour or so on full beam. You're looking at nearly 3 hours on medium and over 9 hours on low power mode. And again, it uses that same interface. You've got one main button with the 4 LEDs on top showing you what mode and how much battery you've got left in it. Right, the next thing on my list of epic essentials is the right kit. I am a stickler for wearing the right things at the right times for the right conditions and places, and it makes a monstrous difference. Now, if we're referring to this race, it was pretty warm. So in the day I was wearing shorts and t-shirts, lycra top and bottoms if you like. A real good chamois is crucial here because I was spending a lot of time in the saddle. So having the best padding for my butt and making things as comfortable as possible is absolutely essential. And the same again, just with everything that I chose to wear. So I had my disco slippers on, some Shimano XC7s, real nice comfortable shoe, excellent power transfer, perfect for those long days. They're lightweight, they're nice and cool as well, so I'm not going to get too hot in them. Similar to my sort of Assos top I was wearing. Up pockets in the back were essential so that I could stash my gels and things like that if needs be. And again, the old Smith Trace helmet, nice and comfortable helmet. I went for an XC type lid rather than Enduro type lid, just again, I wanted to try and keep the overall weight package down. But then, moving into the evening, because it's the desert, it did get a little bit cooler. So on went the leggings, on went the long sleeve top. Nothing too over the top, if you like, because I didn't want to get hot and cooking, but just again, something sensible with pockets in the back that I could keep my stuff stashed away. I didn't really need an overshoe because it didn't get so cold on my feet and I was constantly on the go, on the gas, if you like. I didn't get cold feet. But again, just choosing the right equipment for the right times, I think, is an absolute epic essential. And actually, if you are going big epic and you're taking a backpack, well then having that sort of spare layer or two in a backpack is really important. Again, like I said, previous race, if you'd have noticed, it was a considerably different affair on the weather. It was minging and horrible. So having a good coat with you, good waterproof bottoms, maybe, like I said, spares or overshoes, it's just tailoring what you're wearing and what you need to the type of ride and where you're going. So doing a bit of research beforehand is absolutely crucial. We all know big rides mean big numbers. And you know I love to keep track of my numbers, in fact. So for this ride, we were kindly again sponsored by Garmin, where I was using this, the Edge 1040 Solar. We had on screen then all the information that I kind of like to know as I'm doing these mental rides. So there was all the basics from things like speed, average speed, time, crucially heart rate, average heart rate, just so that I know how I'm getting on, how much into the red I really am burying myself. But then on top of that, there was obviously things like the GPS, so I was keeping track of my route as I go. Solar charging, so how much sun that this thing was actually drinking in, how much extra battery time it was gaining, and then some performance metrics. So on here I've got stamina and potential, sort of showing me what's in the tank and what it reckons I've got left. And using those was absolutely key to sort of pacing, knowing what I've got in the tank and how much harder and further I could potentially push it. So of my time out on the bike, I did over 212 kilometers and it actually gained over an hour and a half worth of extra battery time from it being in the sunlight. Bear in mind it was in the sun from about 12 midday till I think it's sunset around 6. So over 6 hours, an extra hour and a half, which is obviously not too bad at all. Right, next up, number 4 on my list. Let's talk all things spares, repairs and everything in between. So epic rides generally mean a long time out on the bike. So for me, I think it's essential to be carrying the right equipment with you when it comes to being able to potentially fix your bike. Now the bare essentials, this was a lapped race, so I was always coming through the pits. It was a 16-mile lap. So it meant I didn't really need to carry too much. So on the bike, I had things like a set of split link pliers, which were also tire levers from Toe Peak here, a nice lightweight inner tube all strapped on tightly down there. The Toe Peak Ninja bottle cage in here has got all the little multi-tool things you could need on it. So everything from a 3, 4, 5, 6 mil Allen key, T25, and even a chain breaker on there. Now on top of that, I had in my pockets some PE's plugs for tubeless tires and a spare set of power links for the chain as well. So should I need to just break a part of the chain off, I can easily fix that. Now, if I'm going to go into the wilderness a little bit more like I have done in the past, then I'll upgrade to a backpack. So inside of the old Camelback backpack there, I'll have additional water because again, there was only 500 ml needed. I just put a fresh bottle on each lap from the pits. But if I was going further, I would definitely take a backpack with something like a 1.5 or a 2 litre bladder in there. And again, I'd probably have a few more spares and definitely more food as well. So I'd be carrying some slightly more substantial food than gels as well, things like sandwiches, bit of quiche, love a bit of quiche as well. I'd have things like another spare inner tube potentially. I'd have a shock pump, maybe something a little more specific to the bike if you're going overnighting as well, like a bikepacking trip, something like a mech hanger or a couple of brake pads. They're real lightweight, easy things to use and carry, so you can chuck them in there. They don't really take up much space. Again, as I said, when it came to clothing, I'd probably take a spare base layer or certainly a spare pair of socks and undies, things like that in there. Something that if you're staying overnight, you can just put some dry stuff on if you get caught out in the weather. Tailor it to the route you're gonna do. If you're doing a big old middle of nowhere epic, then yes, I would strongly suggest doing a dry run even. Get out there, even if it's just a 3-4 hour ride, get that backpack on, make sure you're all comfortable with it, get the bits on your bike that you think you're gonna need. And maybe you might actually have a bit of a problem. You think, oh, okay, I didn't know I needed that. I'll put that for the next time. It's kind of trial and error, and experience comes with it. But hopefully, from my tips and tricks here, you will maybe less error, more trial, and more success. Right, this one is, it's not something you take, it's something you do rather when it comes to an epic essential, and it's bike setup. Now, I've done tons of videos on bike setup, so do check them out. They are linked in the description down below. But when it comes to being in the saddle for an extremely long time, really putting in the work and getting your bike set up both to be comfortable and to work as effectively and efficiently as possible is absolutely crucial. So, key changes that I made for this race then was tyre choice. I went slightly narrower at 2.25 and a much faster rolling tread pattern. So like I said, these are Vittoria Mezcals. There's a really sort of strong center rolling section, so they are very quick on the ground. That way I'm not losing any time and has least resistance as well. 2.25 as opposed to 2.35 all round. Again, try and keep the weight down a little bit. But actually, talking about weight, I did go up when it comes to carcass. So these are XC Trail casing tires. And that was basically because there's tons of cactus out there and I didn't want to get punctures. So it was to try and help against that. The inserts were gone to keep the weight down, but like I said, they were up slightly in thickness. Normally you'd see a lot of tan wool XC race tires on mine, but I really didn't want to risk it at this one. So we went burlier in the tires. Crank Brothers pedals, keeping the weight real nice and low. Easy to get in and out of should I have any issues. Otherwise, what I would suggest is the riding position. The riding position is something you want to get absolutely dialed in. So getting that saddle height and saddle fore and aft, absolutely perfect. Bars, you might want to think about what bars you're running when it comes to up sweep, back sweep. You know, you're going to spend a lot of time leaning forwards onto those handlebars, so they need to be in a really comfortable position, and that matches up nicely with the grips. I went for some chunkier ergon grips, they're sort of push-on grips on this. I've got quite big hands, so the thicker ones kind of take the absorption and mean I'm gripping not quite as tight out of it as well. On the suspension side of things, well, I don't want to dive too deep into that, but I set mine up fairly firm for this race. It was quite a fast, smooth running course, so I didn't want to be bobbing and bouncing around. So I actually went about 10 to 15 PSI stiffer front and rear. 1x12, well, that's going to keep me, you know, rolling around pretty much everything. There's enough gears on there. 29, of course, like I said. Crank length on this was a 175. Sometimes I'm tempted to use a 170, but for just mashing out the miles, just getting that big cadence going, a 175. So my top tip here is when it does come to bike setup, just getting out there, putting the miles in. You really can't get the bike, I don't think, set up properly if you're just doing a really short hour and a half ride. You need to sort of really put a good 2, 3, 4 hour ride in if you can, because you want to simulate actually what you're going to be doing. So if you're going to be putting tons of miles in, going out for an hour and a half and just smashing it around the local trail loop isn't going to be the same as putting 4, 5, 6 plus hours in on the bike. All the sort of niggles and sort of, should we just say, all the uncomfortableness that might come with that won't be shown until you do put some solid time in. I mean, even things like just getting the right seat. I try and use the same seat on all the bikes now, certainly when it comes to the bigger rides on my XC bikes, because I know that that is a real nice, comfy seat. So perched on that isn't going to be too bad. And what I'll then do, actually, once I've got my bike dialed in like I do now, I take a note of all the measurements. So I'll do from center of center of stem to the front of saddle. I'll do from center of bottom bracket to top of saddle, things like that, so that I can always set the bikes up the same. And this is actually a really useful top tip here if you are traveling, especially flying, because a lot of the time you might have to take your bike apart. So getting it set back up exactly the same way is absolutely imperative, I like to think. But hey, that's it. That's my top 5 things for absolute epic rides. I hope they've helped you. I hope there's some real interesting ones in there that you can take away and use for the next time. If you've got any of your own, well, let me know in the comments down below. Do you know what, tech people? It's been an absolute pleasure. But until next time, I will catch you later. See ya.